PSG connection. Debrief in English.
Let's dive into this. PSG's recent Champions League match against PSV ended in a draw. And let's just say the fans are not happy.
Yeah, a draw in the Champions League, especially at this stage, it can really make or break your campaign, right?
Exactly. And we're going to break down why this particular match has everyone so riled up. We've got a great source today, a YouTube video by L'Immigré Parisien. This guy's clearly a diehard PSG fan.
Oh, I've seen some of his stuff. He doesn't hold back.
Not at all. He's passionate, hilarious, and he really gets to the heart of what's frustrating fans right now. So he starts by praising PSG's first 20 minutes. They were dominant. Players like Vitinha and João Neves were shining.
Neves, yeah, he even calls him the control tower of the midfield.
That's right. But then the mood shifts. Big time.
Oh, boy, here we go.
He absolutely slams the decision to start Fabian Ruiz. His words, not mine. Ruiz is like a man with no arms trying to bring you the remote.
Ouch. That's a rough analogy, but I get the sentiment.
Right. So what's with this intense frustration toward Ruiz, especially when the team started so strong?
Well, I think that strong start is actually key to understanding the anger here. Those first 20 minutes were a glimpse of what PSG could be.
And everything clicks.
Exactly. So when it falls apart, it's extra frustrating. And Ruiz, he's become a symbol of that disconnect. Like, he's just not contributing the way fans want him to.
So it's not necessarily that Ruiz is the worst player ever.
It's more that he represents this larger issue of inconsistency. PSG fans are tired of seeing flashes of brilliance, followed by baffling decisions and lackluster performances.
Especially in crucial matches like this. And it doesn't stop with Ruiz. He goes on to rant about Ousmane Dembélé, who, let's be real, is incredibly talented.
Oh, absolutely.
But even with Dembélé, this YouTuber is torn. He acknowledges his skill, but he's also furious with the missed opportunities and this perceived lack of effort. At one point, he even jokes about preferring Dembélé on one leg.
Wow, Dembélé on one leg. That's harsh, but funny.
Right. But it speaks to a bigger problem for PSG, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. Their inability to consistently score goals, and this frustration with Dembélé ties right into that.
Because he represents potential that's not being fully realized.
Exactly. He's got the speed, the skills, but he's not converting those into consistent goals. And for a team with Champions League ambitions, that's a huge GE problem.
It's almost like they're teasing the fans.
A little bit, yeah. Like, look what we can do, and then nothing. And it's driving the fan base crazy.
You know, it's interesting. Even when he talks about Hakimi, who actually scored PSG's equalizing goal.
Oh, yeah, the one bright spot.
He does it in this sort of backhanded way. He
Yeah.
says Hakimi only stood out because he was performing better than Dembélé.
Wow. So even a GIL is being viewed negatively.
It seems that way, which I think says a lot about the mindset of PSG fans right now. It's like there's this deep-seated pessimism.
Like, they're almost expecting things to go wrong, which is not a good sign for a team that needs to be confident and hungry for success.
It's not just the players, it's the entire atmosphere surrounding the club. And then we get to the substitutes. He was not impressed.
Uh-oh. Who's on the chopping block now?
Hugo Ekitike and Warren Zaire-Emery, specifically. He calls their performances ignoble.
Strong words. So is this just a case of a passionate fan being overly critical? Or is it something more?
Well, that's what we need to unpack, isn't it? Do these individual performances point to deeper issues within the squad? Is there a lack of depth?
Especially with those tough Champions League fixtures coming up, that depth becomes crucial.
Absolutely. And it all ties back into this overarching theme of inconsistency.
Which, as we've seen, is driving the fans absolutely bonkers.
They're demanding more, and they have every right to. This is PSG, after all.
Exactly. A team with sky-high expectations. And right now, they're not meeting them. It's funny, you know, because it goes beyond individual players with this guy. He keeps coming back to this idea that the team just loses its spark after conceding a goal.
Oh, absolutely. Like they get deflated. It's almost like they accept it.
Right. And he uses this very specific phrase in French, jouer la babelle, basically playing casually. No urgency, no drive.
Yeah. Like they've mentally checked out.
Exactly. And that's a huge worry in the Champions League, right? Every match is so intense, you can't afford to lose focus, not even for a second.
And he even mentions how the fans in the stadium, they were doing the same thing, whistling at the players. That frustration was palpable.
It's like that feeling is contagious, you know?
Yeah.
From the players to the fans, everyone's picking up on that lack of, I don't know, that killer instinct.
It's so interesting how this one YouTube rant captures the bigger picture of what's going on with PSG right now.
Totally. It's like all this talent, all these big names, and yet something's missing.
It's that mental toughness, isn't it?
A lot of people are saying that, yeah. Talent can only take you so far. You need that grit, that determination to overcome obstacles.
So where do we go from here? Is it all doom and gloom for PSG?
I wouldn't say that, but they definitely need a spark, something to shake things up.
What could that be? New tactics. A big signing in January.
Well, the YouTuber actually hints at something interesting. He talks about those first 20 minutes again, when they were dominant.
When they look like the PSG we all expect them to be.
Exactly. And he keeps praising João Neves for his role in that period, calling him the control tower because he wins the ball. He distributes it so well.
So are you saying that maybe the key to success is rediscovering that team spirit, that smooth, flowing attack?
It's definitely a possibility. If they can get back to that energy, that synchronized movement, I think they have a chance.
Let's say they do. Let's say they find that spark. What LSE needs to happen for PSG to actually achieve their Champions League dreams?
There are a few factors, but one stands out. And the YouTuber, he screams about it practically throughout the entire video.
Yeah, finding that spark is one thing, but they got to start putting the ball in the net.
Oh, tell me about it. This YouTuber, he practically loses his voice yelling about their finishing. And rightfully so. I mean, you can dominate possession, create chances till the cows come home, but if you can't finish, it's all for nothing.
It's like having a Ferrari with a broken engine, right? All flash, no power.
Exactly. And he's particularly harsh on Dembélé, saying he'd rather have Dembélé on one leg than some of those substitutes.
I mean, it's a funny image, but it gets the point across, right? The guy's got the speed, the skill, but when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net,
he just seems to overthink it, that composure, that killer instinct, it's just not quite there yet.
And he even criticizes Ekitike and really the whole attack for not being sharp enough in those crucial moments.
It's a team-wide problem for sure. They need to be more clinical, more ruthless, more hungry for those goals.
So it sounds like we've got two big takeaways here. Reigniting that team spirit, that flow they had in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And then finding a way to sharpen that finishing.
Yeah.
To actually capitalize on those chances they create.
Those are the keys, no doubt.
So if they can figure those two things out, you think a deep Champions League run is still possible?
It's a long shot, I'm not going to lie. Those early results, they've put PSG in a tough spot. But if they can click, if they can unlock that potential, this team is still dangerous.
So what's next for the fans? What can they do at this point? It's got to be nerve-wracking.
Well, I think the fans have a huge role to play. The energy in the stadium, that unwavering support, it can make a real difference. But patience is key, too. This team, they're still figuring things out.
So a mix of hope, patience, and maybe some stress eating along the way.
Yeah, probably a bit of that, too. But look, PSG's Champions League journey, it's far from over. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride.
Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into PSG's recent performance and the, let's call it, passionate response from their fans. We've seen glimpses of brilliance, flashes of frustration, and a whole lot of uncertainty about what comes next.
We've unpacked the tactics, the psychology of the players and the fans, but in the end, it's up to PSG to find their way, to figure out how to unlock their true potential.
It's a story that's still being written, and we'll be here to analyze every twist and turn. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversations going.